This is in response to very serious allegations involving a former friend, someone who had been part of my streams for years and was well known within the Sonic community long before I even became a content creator. I want to issue this warning up front. This video will discuss very inappropriate material that is not suitable for children. While I'll not be showing any graphic images for obvious reasons, it's important to give this warning up front, especially since this is also in response to the Sonic Show's video, which covers explicit material without proper discretion. I also understand this video is quite long, so please feel free to watch this at double the speed. I'm addressing the situation involving Shanny Classic Knack Fan, or as many of you guys would know him as just Shanny. On August 31st, 2024, Jaden from the Sonic Show released a video alleging very serious allegations involving Shanny, and I was included in it due to my former friendship with him and his presence on my live streams over the years. The Sonic Show's video about these allegations was based on the misconception that I understood the full extent of what Shanny was doing and what was being alleged against him by using out-of-context messages and testimonies. The truth is, I didn't know about the allegations. This video and the document provided will show both evidence and testimony to back up my claims. To be clear, I want to start with what is being alleged regarding Shanny. The first allegation is that Shanny sent not safe for work furry material to an individual known as SNick when he was 17. The second allegation is that Shanny had an account on a website called Ink Bunny where he would favorite unacceptable furry material, which included art depicting minors. I do not support Shanny's actions, and I permanently cut ties with him on August 24th, 2024, after hearing the full story from both SNick and Jaden of the Sonic Show, which was about a week before Jaden's video was released. In fact, this was roughly 20 minutes after my initial call with Jaden, once he explained the full context of everything being alleged. The three most recent streams currently on my channel all happened after I cut ties with Shanny. I say this to show that this decision was made prior to the Sonic Show's video. While there's more context to explain my inaction and unknowingness of the situation over the course of a year, I fully acknowledge that none of it excuses that Shanny was someone that should have never had a platform, and I was negligent in not looking into these allegations sooner. I wrongly gave my friend the benefit of the doubt, which was irresponsible. The responsibility of who I allow on my channel is mine alone, and I deeply regret this mistake. And for that, I am sorry. I'm committed to making things right and learning from this. While I believe Jaden's video was not made with ill intent, it misrepresents my statements and lacks the full context as to why I didn't permanently cut ties with Shanny, as any previous mention of me cutting ties was in regards to a separate issue that occurred around the same time. In this video and in my document, I'll provide both evidence and testimony, including statements from the victim himself, SNick, to bring clarity to this issue. It's also important to note that Jaden's video goes against SNick's wishes, the victim in this case, to stay focused on Shanny, which I will explain further with permission and guidance using both evidence and testimony. This response took some time for me to make. First and foremost, these are serious allegations, and this isn't something that can or should be rushed ever. I want to be as transparent as possible with you all, which is why I'm releasing everything. All relevant DMs with Jaden, Matthasnocuts, and the group chats I had with them regarding this issue, as well as my full call with both of them when I learned about the full context. However, to do this, I had to go through and censor sensitive information, such as those wishing to remain anonymous, and other information that could be deemed sensitive. I hope this explains the delay. Let me be clear. I do not support Shanny or excuse what he did in any way. I didn't defend him in my initial call with Jaden on August 24th, 2024, and I don't defend him now. This video is not in defense of Shanny or the other perpetrator with whom I have no relation to. I want to make it explicitly clear that I was unaware of Shanny actually being accused of liking not safe for work furry material depicting minors on Ink Bunny. Had I had known this, and had it actually specifically been told to me in a proper and accurate way, without using terminologies I didn't understand, I would have immediately cut ties with him when those accusations surfaced. Unfortunately, I didn't know what terms like cub meant at the time, or that he was actually being called out for material depicting minors. Furthermore, Shanny's description of the video posted by SNick that called him out was described to me in a way that made SNick's claims sound untruthful. In this video, I'll provide evidence and testimony showing the truth was obscured from me by Shanny, along with the context surrounding the situation that caused me to miss SNick's post backed by tangible evidence, and as to reasons why, at the time, I didn't trust SNick or look into anything SNick said. Let's first address the key points from Jaden's video. There are 4 main pieces of evidence he uses to suggest that I was fully aware of what Shanny was being called out for and the context. The first is my DM conversation with Matthasnocuts on April 30th, 2023. The second is an in-person conversation I had with SNick 2 months later in June of 2023 at the Too Many Games Expo. The third is a non-verbatim testimony from an anonymous individual from a conversation I had 5 months ago. And the fourth is the initial call I had with Jaden on August 24th, 2024. I will reference these 4 points throughout this video to ensure that we stay focused on the claims Jaden made. So, did I see SNick's post on April 16, 2023? The answer is no. However, I heard about it later that day from Shanny himself after my stream. SNick's post was made at 12:39 a.m. I streamed later that same day at 5 p.m. playing Sonic Advance 2. Shanny actually joined that stream along with others. At no point, 17 hours after SNick's post, did anyone in my chat inform me that Shanny was accused of liking not safe for work furry material depicting minors. I reviewed the 4+ hour VOD to the best of my ability, and I don't see any mention of that accusation in the chat. For full transparency, I'll provide a link to that VOD so that you can see for yourself that there was no mention of this issue at the time. And there would have been no way for me to manipulate the chat because the chat is on screen. Had anything have been deleted, it would still show up on the video feed. I will also provide links to all of my tweets from April 2023 to show that no mention of SNick's post was made aware to me through replies or quote tweets. If someone from my chat or community had brought this to my attention, I would not have ignored it. I would have absolutely looked into it right then and there. Unfortunately, it was Shanny who informed me after my stream that night. I had just finished streaming Sonic Advance 2 around 10:30 p.m. EST, and Shanny told me that SNick posted a video about him. He mentioned it was about an old art account he had from years ago on a website I'd never heard of. While I don't remember the exact wording, I recall Shanny mentioning that SNick was trying to paint him as a creep, and downplayed the video's actual significance. He insinuated that the video only showed blurred images of furry content, and that SNick was trying to paint it worse than it was. Shanny mentioned the term cub to me at that time, but again, I didn't know what that meant. And he also alluded to the inclusion of that material being false. Shanny also reassured me that everything on the account was legal and framed it as another attempt by SNick and his friends to harass Shanny due to their past falling out, painting him as a degenerate for liking not safe for work furry art. There's some important context to consider here. At this point, why didn't I watch the video for myself or ask Shanny for a link? Well, prior to this allegation, it wasn't a surprise to hear that SNick or anyone associated with him made yet another post or attack on Shanny. This was something Shanny complained about quite often as he had a past falling out with SNick and his friends. Additionally, I had already been actively avoiding SNick and his group of friends due to an experience I witnessed where they would spread false stories, which made me less inclined to engage with any new content they posted. I'll keep it concise, but here's the backstory. In early 2023, a video emerged of Shanny leaking Sonic Colors Ultimate to SNick and his group of friends back when they used to be friends. This post would falsely imply that I was involved in this leak. This was spread by SNick and his group of friends, and it made me uncomfortable due to my current contract work. I told Shanny to stop engaging in leak culture as I take my work very seriously and didn't want to be associated or falsely implied with anyone who is known to be a leaker. Furthermore, about 3 weeks before the allegations posted by SNick, on March 26, 2023, someone from a Sonic news site accused me of random, completely unrelated claims, which led to confusion and a fallout that I had with a friend. This person then spoke with SNick's group, who were planning to publicize a conspiracy against Sonic tubers, including myself, in a public Sonic Discord server, and I sent this message warning those they were planning on targeting. I had this information because someone from the server informed me what they were planning, told me what they were going to do, and who they were going to target. So why does this matter? Again, this happened 3 weeks before the accusations posted by SNick. And this is context as to why when Shanny told me that SNick made a post about him, I did not pay it any attention. Mentally, I was already dealing with chronic anxiety due to my past falling out as a result of that guy from the Sonic news site, and I wanted to take a step back from any and all drama, especially relating to that group associated with SNick. SNick himself does attest that the situation did occur 3 weeks before the allegations and did write this piece. Now, for the sake of brevity, I'm not going to read the entire thing. You guys can pause and read it for yourself, but essentially SNick does confirm that this event did happen, and near the bottom, SNick does say regarding this whole situation, this would have only further seeded distrust folks like Sam had towards myself for a time. Now, due to how uncomfortable that group made me and my past discussions I had with Shanny about not antagonizing the group from his past falling out, he told me that he'll be taking some time away because that group had affected his mental health. I didn't disagree, because I was already frustrated with Shanny for being known as a leaker and for that group continuously becoming a problem due to his past falling out. With everything going down at that point with SNick and from what I knew from my past experience, as well as from what was being told to me from Shanny, I honestly just gave Shanny the benefit of the doubt. I recall telling him to do things by the law if that group continues, and then leaving to go eat dinner since my stream started before I could eat anything at 5 p.m. Later that night at 11:28 p.m., Shanny messaged me that he sent an email to a law firm explaining the situation so that he can see if he has a potential case or not. It's important to note that at the time, I was under the impression that any drawing depicting minors engaging in not safe for work content was illegal. In fact, it wasn't until my call with Jaden that I learned that drawings were not illegal. This is what I was going to say. If you guys are doing an investigation, have you guys ever thought about reporting that? Like, if it is how you described it, have you guys thought about reporting it to law enforcement? Come on. No, I'm not joking.
Yes and no. For example, wait, I will say. So I'll explain yes and no. Okay. So obviously, Shanny didn't do anything illegal because it's drawings of babies. Same way Shadman, the only reason he got arrested is because he assaulted someone with a gun.
That's not illegal?
Nope. Drawings of anything are fine, unfortunately.
Lolicon is not illegal.
Nope.
I did not know that.
As long as it's not pictures or videos.
I thought it was legal.
Nope.
Okay. Well, that's news to me. This is important context because at this point, my former friend at the time was already telling me that there was nothing of concern, and I was under the impression that drawings of minors engaging in not safe for work material was illegal, and he was proactively trying to do things by the law. Due to those factors, I really did not think there was anything of real concern. Continuing on with the messages with Shanny, I asked again, the pictures he blurred, is it just furry stuff? To which Shanny responded, so the very first thing in the video is my face, LMAO. This is important. He is describing what is in the very first few moments of the video because he knows I didn't watch it, which is why he's describing the very first few seconds. It's also important to note the LMAO and his unseriousness of the matter, which is the same tone he had when he initially informed me in the voice call that SNick had made a video about him, which is also why it came off as no real concern. Shanny continues on to say, yeah, there isn't anything real. Ink Bunny is all furry stuff. Plus, he had to log in to see it. You can't see Not Safe for Work without an account and confirming. So they went out of their way to do this. Notice how he says they, implying SNick's group. As again, Shanny would describe any attack on him or any post about him as coming from a group of his former friends due to their past falling out. I simply responded with, as discussing anything related to not safe for work furry material made me uncomfortable, and I was clearly not interested in discussing this matter further. In fact, there was a running gag in my streams with Shanny making furry jokes intentionally because he knew I was unaware and uncomfortable with the subject. This box.
Everybody thinks you're a furry. Except for Sonic 17 1000.
And I wonder who caused that, Shanny.
Entercon's fun. You should go. You should go hang out.
Nah, I'm good.
You could be Sam, the thinking. I'm thinking of
No, really, I'm good. I don't need to go. Wouldn't hold it against him.
Sam, are you a furry?
Shanny, What the fuck? Where did that come from?
Well, we were talking about Anthrocon earlier.
I'm not a furry. Where did that come from, bro? I'm just trying to play a game.
Your stream was calling you a furry earlier. I'm just trying to get to the. Are you a furry?
Stop. No, I was just making a Silver Gunner reference. Why don't you just stop it? Stop it.
No,
you stop it.
Sam, are you a furry?
I wish to talk to Sonic.
Sam, that's what furries do. Furries say boop.
Naughty boy.
Oh my god, Sam! I didn't know you had such a vocabulary in that.
You have given me so
Do you boop snoots or nuzzle muzzles?
Oh, what the hell is that?
A muzzle is the mouth of a dog, you idiot.
Yes, I know, but you... dude, don't... How do you know that terminology? We're done. Either way, looking back, I deeply regret taking Shanny at his word. I also wish I didn't let my past experience with SNick lead me to dismiss the situation as mere drama or false accusations intended to embarrass Shanny. At the time, I wasn't familiar with the terminology, and because of how uncomfortable the topic of not safe for material made me, I chose to turn a blind eye and distance myself. Unfortunately, that inaction resulted in him continuing to have a platform, and for that, I sincerely apologize. Here is a statement from SNick on the matter. From my personal experience dealing with Shanny and observing his behavior when it came to drama, it's not much of a surprise to hear that he intentionally obfuscated claims against him to Sam and presented them as lesser than what they were. Doubly so is the fact that he would feed off the biases people may potentially have towards an opposing group/person and use it to his advantage to seed narratives as a mean to prevent peers from looking further into anything against him. And things could be more easily labeled as a hit piece. He had essentially formed a cult of personality for himself due to how often he framed himself as a victim in these ordeals to those out of the loop, which is where most of these problems arose. With that context in mind, let's address one of Jaden's key points. If I truly didn't know about Shanny's involvement in the material, why did I tell Matthasnocuts on April 30th, 2023 that I had cut ties? Let me explain the full context of these DMs. When I saw Matthasnocuts mentioned in the tweet, I reached out to him asking, "What is this?" Matt responded, "You know what happened to Shanny, right?" I replied, "I have heard, yes. Haven't really been in contact with him outside of him joining my streams, but ever since, I kind of cut ties." I want to clarify that this wasn't the best choice of words on my part. While yes, Shanny had already distanced himself as I already described, I had no intention of reaching out to him, especially with his reputation for leaking grew. Saying I cut ties could be misunderstood as me actively blocking him. In reality, the more I learned about his leaks, the less I wanted to associate with him. And look, I don't blame Jaden or anyone else for thinking that this implies that I knew what was going on in regards to Shanny. But I believe the full conversation I had with Matthasnocuts shows that I was still completely unaware of the other serious issues and was only focused on Shanny being connected to leaks. Matt further explained, "It's probably good that you cut ties. That's what everyone else did." Essentially, this post was about how Shanny would tell random people and SonicTubers about Sonic projects that he knew about. One project that he spoke about was the 2D Sonic game and Sonic Colors Ultimate. I replied, "I saw the stuff about Sonic Colors Ultimate, which wasn't surprising. A bunch of people knew about that for a long time. But I never heard about a 2D game. That's why I'm confused. Why am I in Strategy Guide getting connected to this? Also, Victor is not part of SG. SG meaning Strategy Guide." Matt responded, "You're getting connected because they believe you have ties to Shanny." I said, "Jesus, do you know this person? Who made this post?" Matt replied, "Not really, but I know a guy who has helped them. If you really want to clear your name, I'd probably leave a reply saying you cut ties. The reason why these people are making these posts is because they have a sort of vendetta against Shanny for spreading Sonic leaks and rumors about others in the community. And of course, they're upset about the Ink Bunny account. They believe SonicTubers like you and Tails Channel were being manipulated by Shanny." I do want you guys to hear that again because that is the important part. Matt specifically mentioned the reason why these people are making these posts is because they have a sort of vendetta against Shanny for spreading Sonic leaks and spreading rumors about other members of the community. I immediately associated this with SNick and his group based on their past actions and dismiss it as just more personal drama from a previous falling out. Since it was framed as a vendetta, I didn't consider it to be grounded in actual facts. This tweet contained blatant inaccuracies right from the first sentence. For one, Matthasnocuts never worked on any official Sonic media. Secondly, as I explained to Matthasnocuts in DMs, Victor McKnight was never officially involved with Strategy Guide. Lastly, Shanny had no connections to Sega of America employees. This is why I dismissed the tweet. Its falsehoods were immediately clear. While I can't recall exactly what was going through my mind at the time, I believe these inaccuracies made me overlook the mention of, quote, not safe for work depictions of minors. The misleading information made the entire tweet seem manipulative from the start. Given that all of my messages throughout the entire 1 hour text conversation with Matthasnocuts was solely focused on only one aspect of that tweet, it's pretty evident that I was completely unaware of the rest of it. I even stated, quote, because yeah, no, Shanny only joined my streams along with a bunch of other people. I never talked to Shanny outside of that as we were never close, and we definitely cut ties after that stuff came out, referring to his connections again to leaks. I also added, but this post is insinuating that I broke NDA, which is laughable. I have zero knowledge of any game. These statements clearly show that my focus was on defending myself against the leak accusations, and I completely overlooked the other points raised in the tweet. In fact, the very night I learned about the allegations from Jaden, right after I banned Shanny from the server, I called Matthasnocuts. During that call, I even mentioned this. A lot of the main crux with him leaving too, and me not even seeking him out or trying to tell him to come back, because I never did, was because I do recall me and you talking about that leak stuff. And I remember thinking, like, that isn't a good look if he's alleged to be leaking stuff. And I'm working on my own freelance work, and this guy is alleged of leaking stuff. Well, first off, I don't talk to Shanny at all about that stuff, obviously. I don't talk to anybody about that stuff. People that know me know that I take my NDAs very seriously. And, you know, it's my bread, it's my main job. I wouldn't mess with that. But that's also that was one of the main reasons why I think I even said the term cut off, is because at that moment, a lot of my thoughts were in that. Because again, the allegation stuff was not made aware to me. I didn't see the tweet from SNick. I didn't see any tags, me being tagged in it.
Yeah.
Again, I will be including the entire DM exchange I had with Matthasnocuts on the day that tweet was posted, as well as my entire call with Matthasnocuts, with some names censored for privacy. The key point is, while the tweet did mention the accusations against Shanny by SNick, I think I genuinely just missed that detail. Unfortunately, the link to SNick's post wasn't immediately accessible in that tweet either. It was buried 5 tweets down, eventually leading to a Google Drive file, where in that file, the video was stored. Had I have seen SNick's video sooner, or had it been readily available in that tweet right then and there, I would have absolutely realized the full scope of the situation that day. It is worth pointing out that since Jaden's video released, I learned that Matthasnocuts actually talked to Shanny about the Not Safe for Work furry cub art, and in the video, Jaden flashes a DM from Shanny to Matthasnocuts, and in the picture you can see Shanny say, quote, I used to hang out and support friends who were artists that drew furry/Sonic stuff. What's being blurred out is a combo of safe for work, not safe for work, Sonic stuff from friends that I either followed or supported or used to follow. I wanted to bring attention to this because the remnants of how Shanny would obfuscate and would describe what was in the video is present in that message. Saying things like stuff or safe for work or not safe for work without going into explicit detail. I'm not claiming to be completely innocent though in this entire situation. And I also understand that again, that tweet explicitly mentioned what was being alleged. Although our text conversation shows that I was primarily focused on the leak allegations, and my past experience with SNick led me to dismiss the tweet as just more baseless drama from a group with an agenda, as well as Matthasnocuts also mentioning that it was from a group that had a vendetta against Shanny, This really was the moment, even if I miss SNick's initial post, this really was the moment when I should have uncovered the truth about Shanny. The information was right in front of me, and I missed it because of my immediate disregard for anything tied to SNick's group. I know all of us don't like drama. I'm not a drama tuber. I don't cover drama. In fact, this video makes me incredibly uncomfortable because I know part of this can even be perceived as drama. My immediate disregard for anything drama related made me careless in not realizing that at the heart of this may be a serious issue. Regardless of what my mindset at the time is, I should have been more attentive. This oversight is entirely my responsibility, and it's my mistake. I deeply regret it, and again, I am really sorry. This is a statement from SNick himself. It is my understanding that moving forward, this type of knee-jerk behavior / irrational group thinking will be avoided, and if any ordeals arise in the future, then all sides of the spectrum will be assessed critically and rationally, which is something I'm extremely happy to hear. And I just want to say, this is a commitment I intend to uphold. 2 months later, at the Too Many Games 2023 Expo, I ran into SNick, and this was an opportunity for me to clear the air. I also was aware of the recent post from his group accusing Shanny of being a leaker, so I introduced myself and asked if we could discuss it, which he agreed to. It's important to note that anytime I spoke to SNick at Too Many Games, we spoke in a group setting, with multiple people there to hear our entire conversation. During our discussion, I mentioned that I understood he had recently made a video about Shanny liking furry content and that they had some sort of past falling out. I also clarified that my official work had no connections to Shanny as I maintained strict boundaries between work and those who are just on my streams. I even thanked SNick at this moment for exposing Shanny's Sonic Colors Ultimate leak, which reinforced why at the time I had distanced myself from him. At no point during our conversation did SNick explicitly bring up the serious allegations from 2 months prior. While I do recall him briefly mentioning the furry art, we focused entirely on Shanny's leak-related behavior and the conspiracies from SNick's friends at that time. This account is also supported not only by others present during our conversation, but also from SNick himself. SNick said, "Sam and I are on the same page with our meetup at Too Many Games 2023. I had assumed Sam had already known about the full story and didn't want to delve too much into what was already known, focusing instead on more personal unknowns between the two of us. However, that was not the case from what I know now. Our conversation at Too Many Games was respectful and productive, and it successfully resolved many of the lingering issues between me and SNick's group. Since then, there has been a notable silence from that group with no further drama." And things would remain quiet regarding Shanny until about early September 2023, when I received this message from Shanny saying that he actually might speak to SNick again. At this point, I was only aware of the first allegation regarding SNick, so hearing about their possible reconciliation reinforced the story that Shanny told me. I know I didn't get to really cover it so far in this video about what Shanny told me regarding the first allegation, so I'll briefly cover it here because I do talk about it later in the video. Essentially, what Shanny told me from years past is that at some point when SNick was 17, he was in a server he wasn't supposed to be in, and he lied about his age, and there was a person in that same server that was an adult in their 20s that SNick was dating, and because Shanny knew the adult and knew that they were dating SNick, he assumed that SNick was also an adult. So he sent him not safe for work furry material as well. Of course, apparently according to Shanny, once he found out his age, he stopped. It was a big misunderstanding. From what I know now, after talking to SNick, and as we'll talk about later in this video, that is not entirely truthful as to how that happened or the full context behind that. Either way, hearing this from Shanny reinforced that story that was told to me. It would be around this point that Shanny would start to become active again, and eventually on November 18, 2023, while I was playing Sonic Unleashed on stream, Shanny would join my call, and since there was no discussions relating to Shanny being a leaker, and there has been a silence from SNick and his group, and there has been no drama brought up for a while, I didn't really protest it. I had thought Shanny had taken my concerns about leak culture and antagonizing that group into account. From that point, Shanny would just frequently join my streams like before, with no mention of the allegations or issues arising. This brings me to Jaden's third piece of evidence. I got a message from an individual who wants to remain anonymous, and they asked, quote, "Hey Sam, can I ask you a quick question about something I've noticed?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "So as of recently, I've noticed that Shanny has been frequently popping up on your streams more often again. Out of curiosity, are you aware of the stuff he was outed for a while back, or what's going on with that?" I said, "Is this in regards to the SNick stuff?" Anonymous says, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, would you like to call about it?" And he says, "If you're down for that, sure." From that point, we had a 34-minute conversation where I had explained that Shanny had taken a step back from streaming due to being labeled as a leaker and with his fallout with SNick's group. I also brought up the first allegation from SNick, where Shanny allegedly sent not safe for work material to SNick when he was 17, but claimed he stopped once he learned his age. Shanny again even suggested that SNick lied about his age and was in a server that he shouldn't have been in, implying that the server had an age limit of some kind. At the time, everything I shared was based solely on what Shanny's told me, which I know now again is inaccurate. During the conversation, the anonymous individual mentioned Shanny's art account, but as I understood then, it was just not safe for work furry art from his friends, which Shanny downplayed as being less serious. I was also under the impression it was legal art from over a decade ago. At no point did this person explicitly detail what Shanny had been outed for. I also explained that I believed SNick and his friends were simply just trying to embarrass Shanny over furry art, as again, Shanny described the video to me as being false. I explained that Shanny had stepped back because I was uncomfortable with him being tied to leaks. While also distancing himself from that group, I made it clear that if leaks persisted, I would rather cut ties than police his behavior. This anonymous individual supports this account of our conversation, stating, initially the word, quote, Shanny had changed, had been telephoned into being about growing from cub content. In actuality, it was most definitely about the fact that Shanny was known for sharing Sonic leaks, not from Sam. This is important because Jaden uses my conversation with this individual as a third major piece of evidence that I apparently said Shanny had changed. And with Jaden's understanding of it, he believes this was in reference to Cub, but it wasn't. Again, as both me and the anonymous individual himself has said, this was most likely again in relation to Shanny being a leaker. This quote, which Jaden references, came directly from this anonymous individual in this conversation. Now having known the full extent of the allegations of what Shanny was outed for, I fully understand now why this anonymous individual wanted to have this call in the first place, but because our talk only discussed the smaller issues, I can now see that this individual probably thought I was just avoiding the topic and they didn't feel like bringing it up because I wasn't talking about it. But again, that wasn't the case at all. But also to drive this point home, if I had somehow known about the full allegations regarding Shanny and this person was calling me to ask me about them, there's no way I would have kept Shanny around if we actually discussed the allegations. First, I don't agree with that material at all, and I would have just cut Shanny off right then and there. But secondly, and most importantly, I would have recognized at that moment that Shanny posed a serious threat, not only to my community, but also to my friends. The fact that Shanny was still around after this conversation with Anonymous only proves that I was still completely unaware of the full extent of the allegations. At the end of the day, none of this, none of my explanations, none of this changes the fact that Shanny was still a person who shouldn't have had a platform. I acknowledge that the warning signs were there. And especially now, having known the context and going through everything and seeing everything, I should have acted. I should have asked more questions. I should have investigated further. I shouldn't have taken him at his word. There's a lot I should have done, but I didn't. That is my own failure. I am embarrassed. I question myself now as to how I even had something like that get through or pass by me. Either way, for that, I am truly sorry. I failed miserably. and I'm going to make sure that nothing like this ever happens again. Ever. Now, that covers about 3 out of the 4 main points Jaden brought up in his video as evidence that I knew about what Shanny was doing. The final point I want to address is my call with Jaden himself, the call that explained the full context for me. And for the sake of brevity, I'm not going to be discussing like everything. I'm only going to be talking about a few key clips, some parts that he talks about in his video, and some parts that I feel like is good to just talk about overall. However, again, I will be releasing the entire call I had with both Jaden and Matthasnocuts just for transparency's sake. It's also important to note that these conversations also took place, again, before I had the chance to speak with SNick recently about everything. So, I was still relying on a lot of misleading information from Shanny when I had those talks. And I'm also, again, talking about in those calls the time before I even got to talk to SNick the first time at Too Many Games. So you're going to hear me talk about SNick in a negative light sometimes, in that group in a negative light, because I was explaining my mindset at the time. So just wanted to make sure that's clarified as to why that's the case. Again, a lot of that stuff is water in the bridge, stuff that we discussed, stuff that has been clarified to me. So the first thing I want to address is when Jaden initially asked me what I knew about Shanny, I told him that I recall SNick making a post of some kind, but at the time I couldn't trust SNick. When Jaden asked me, what SNick had lied about, what made me not trust SNick, I began explaining the conspiracies coming from SNick and his group regarding me and my circle. I honestly was surprised actually by Jaden's question, because considering how well known those conspiracies were, for transparency's sake, those conspiracies were called Big Sonic. That's what SNick and his group called it as. I know it's such a crazy name, but Big Sonic was such a well-known joke among Sonic tubers because of how crazy that conspiracy was. So I was honestly taken aback by Jaden's question. And what's interesting is the anonymous individual Jaden references for that out-of-context quote, he also knew what Big Sonic was the moment I mentioned it. So again, I was just taken aback by Jaden's question. Obviously, I didn't question Shanny too much on it, and I am not going to take SNick's side. So I just said, I'm not part of this. I'm dipping out. I'm making my content. Goodbye.
So I'm not as familiar with that part because I'm not dealing with investigating, so I don't really know too much because I've never spoken to SNick. So what was his thing?
What do you mean regarding SNick?
Like what? Like you said he lied or something?
Yeah, he's done that multiple times about my own friend group. But you
like what? That's what I'm saying.
I mean, what? Big Sonic.
I don't.
I'm sure you know about Big Sonic. Come on, right?
Big Sonic's the Sonic Tuber server, right? Isn't that the Big Sonic Tuber server? We're both in Big Sonic.
No. Where do you think the name Big Sonic came from? It was used from SNick to assume that there was some Illuminati thing with my friend group because we had connections to Sega, and for some reason he was just calling it Big Sonic. Again, it's important to note that, this call happened before I was able to talk to SNick about these issues and misconceptions. But I then added shortly thereafter about my discussion with SNick at Too Many Games. At that point, I literally, anything SNick posted, I'm not going to listen to it. Why would I? This guy has been trying to... I just make videos on the internet. And he was constantly making documents. Now, thankfully, I did talk to SNick in 2023 of Too Many Games. I told him the same thing I'm telling him you. He talked to me about Shanny, and I told him, hey, man, I'm not playing cop. I make videos. That's it. You guys have some sort of beef going on. I know you said something about some old account he had 10 plus years ago, but listen, I'm not going to play cop. Now, I'll be honest, after now knowing the full allegations and re-listening to this part of the call, I can now imagine why Jaden was probably super perplexed that I was even saying this. Thankfully, it wouldn't take me long to know the full context of the allegations right after that moment. But I mean, if you have something new,
if you have more to say, I'll let you finish.
No, but I was just gonna say, if you have something new to tell me, I would love to hear it. Because obviously, if there is something that is actually damning, which I do want to say, you're saying there's a doc. I didn't look at the doc. I think at that, I didn't see it.
It does seem a little weird to be I'm not playing cop. This guy, sure, he was in baby furry rape or whatever the hell, but I'm not playing a part of that. But then also have him on.
When you say that, that's different because from what I
well, that's what it was. That's what I'm saying. You can see the video.
I'm telling you this. The terminology that was told to me is cub. That's the word I remember. And
I was told baby fur, and then I found out the term cub. Right. I didn't even know what cub was until recently.
Either. As you can tell, this was the moment I realized this was not just ambiguous furry stuff that has been described to me from Shanny. It was material that I absolutely disagree with. I find absolutely disgusting. And at that moment, I also recall, everything starting to make sense. Why that anonymous individual wanted to have that call with me earlier in the year about Shanny, and why Jaden was confused by my relaxed attitude toward the situation near the beginning of our call, or me talking about how I didn't want to play cop on the situation. I totally understand at that moment the reaction to that. Shortly thereafter, though, Jaden would bring up the past conversations I had regarding Shanny with both Matthasnocuts and the anonymous individual. And now you could probably see why I didn't even want to go into it, because this is literally talking about like fetish shit, and I'm like trying to just make videos and But I do.
Other people have talked to you about it, like Matt. Like a bunch of people have talked to you about it.
Not a bunch of people. I know about it recently. I know about Matt, but I don't. Did recently, and yeah, I told him the same thing where there was stuff that was alleged from SNick. SNick is not a person I could trust at that time. I didn't look into it, so I didn't go any further than that. Now, if what you are saying, if you're describing what this is in the way you just did, that is different. That is concerning. That is something where I wouldn't be as lax. I'm not playing.
That was in SNick's video, Like here, I wonder but that was in SNick's video.
I didn't watch it.
Can I send it?
I didn't watch it. During our call, whenever I tried to explain to Jaden that I didn't watch or see the call-out post from SNick, he would often respond negatively and dismiss what I was saying or trying to convey. It kind of felt like my attempts to provide context and explain the reasons behind my actions were being ignored or probably seen as excuses. If for some reason it was literally Shanny is a pedophile, I feel like I would have saw that. I didn't see it go that far. I did not see it go that far. I didn't hear it go that far. But again, I also didn't look into it that much when that situation was going down.
It does feel, I'm not saying it is intentional, because I can't say that, nor do I like fully think that, but I think it's possible.
You think I am protecting a pedophile?
Because he's your friend, yeah.
No.
Possibly.
No. If that was the case,
because people protect their friends all the time, like all the time, people protect their friends, like the whole David Dobrik. You probably don't know about that. That's like mainstream.
Jaden, if those allegations were said in that way, I would have absolutely looked into it. From what I understood, was Shanny had some sort of account that liked cub stuff, which I didn't know what cub meant. I'm not a furry. You're not either. And you even told me you didn't know what that.
I know, but it was explained. That's what I'm saying. I didn't know about any of the native stuff. I didn't know what inflation. I thought inflation referred to currency. I didn't know. I didn't know anything.
I also didn't watch the videos. I haven't had time to, and you want to know why my mental health has been compromised? I've had time to actually just sit down and watch it or go into drama. Or
that's like fair, right? Like so I'll let you finish, but you're saying like I didn't have time and my mental health didn't allow me to sit through it. That's fine. But then it's like, okay, Matt messaged you, did you cut ties? And then at that point you're like, okay, maybe. And then talks to you and says, oh, did you do it? And then maybe. And then SNick talks to you and I'm talking to you.
What do you mean? You're saying it was Matt, not you.
And SNick, apparently, according to you. I didn't even know SNick talked to you.
We talked at Too Many Games, in person. And we had a great conversation.
Yeah.
And what's odd is he didn't disagree or anything like that. We took pictures at the end of the day. I signed his stuff. We had a great time. And I told him my stance on it. He didn't seem bothered by it at all.
That does seem odd, but that is anecdotal.
Well,
so I can't put anywhere here than there.
But if what you're telling me is... And the way you're describing it is like, this isn't just like, it's a fucking teddy bear or a bear that looks young. You're telling me that this is actual, like, worse.
Honestly, even if it was a Sonic character, like people get upset over Blaze and stuff. It's like, even that I probably wouldn't make a shit fit over because like, who cares, right?
But
like, it's just
another
Lion's character.
It's another aspect of it that I feel.
But this is so much worse. Do you know that? That's what I'm saying. If it was like that.
That's the thing. I didn't know that. But as you can hear from the call, this is where I felt the tone has shifted. And the conversation took a different direction. Jaden claimed that based on my past conversations about Shanny, I must have known. Again, I don't believe Jaden had bad intentions. Based on the limited context he had of my conversations about Shanny, it's understandable why he may have come to that conclusion. The reality, though, is that I simply didn't know, which is why our call started to get off the rails. From what I remember from 2023, what was being alleged is what was in there was creepy. But when you actually say pedophile, but
it shows the tags. There's like cub, rape. I mean, I feel like rape. Let's say you didn't know what cub was, right? No one knows what cub is. You know what rape is, right?
Yes, but I think you're forgetting that I did not watch the video, and I've said that multiple times throughout this call. I did not watch the video. I did not look at it.
But I don't think that's like, oh, you didn't watch the video. Never mind. No fault. No. Like, then you should have watched the video. You heard about this stuff. You were confronted by multiple creators.
No. I am not going to watch. That's insane.
This is like me saying I didn't read the native doc. I didn't read it because he's my friend and that's so gross and I didn't want to look at it. So I'm having him on my stream.
No, you're misconstruing what I'm saying. I'm not saying I didn't want to watch the video because Shanny is my friend. I said at the point my mental health was compromised. I didn't have time to watch videos, and I'm especially if somebody told me SNick made a video on Shanny, I'm not going to.
I'm trying to be so charitable, but you can't be like I didn't have time to look at Twitter. I didn't have time to respond. I'm being so charitable, but that's kind of bullshit. Let's be real. We all have time to look at Twitter.
And I would appreciate it if I appreciate you bring this to my attention, but I feel like this could have been done another way. Especially now, again, after seeing everything, I fully understand why Jaden reacted the way he did. But at the same time, I was trying to explain the context behind why I didn't see or watch the video SNick posted when Shanny told me about it. This was also the point when things became unsettling for me. I am only human, and being accused of knowing that someone was a predator shook me to my core. I knew it wasn't true, but it was becoming increasingly difficult to explain my side. If
you want a tone indicator, I think it should be empathetic. It should be kind of like humble, because I'm talking to you about the fact, and I'll be aggressive too if you want. I can do the same tone. This year in 2024, you've had this pedophile on for over 40 times. I've not had a pedophile on my streams once, nonetheless 40 times in this year alone. That's what I'm saying.
I don't think you are quite understanding what I'm saying when you mentioned like pedophile. That was not alleged to me last year. That was not.
You knew he was in his mid-30s as well. Like, let's say it was creepy. He's in his mid-30s talking to Sonic
Why
fans.
did you just ignore what I just said?
You're saying you didn't know it, but I don't believe it. So because here's a DM with someone talking to you about it. If you really want, we can do this.
Please do. I acknowledged it then, and I'll acknowledge it again here, because I do think it is important to show that no matter what I say, or no matter the context I give, especially with the Matthasnocuts DMs, that really should have been the moment I discovered the truth about Shanny, and it was a moment that I simply overlooked. I dismissed anything relating to SNick's group as drama and false. I looked at the beginning of that tweet with the first sentence being just false claims. I just did not pay any attention to everything it said. Regardless of what I was thinking, though, again, I acknowledge that was wrong. I should have done more investigating. I should have acted more diligently. It was a failure to act on my part, and that is entirely on me. And again, I do deeply regret it. During our call, I acknowledged that I wasn't trying to act like I handled everything perfect, because again, at that point, Jaden did describe, what was being alleged. He described exactly what Cub was, and he explained that SNick made the post and it was on a video, and he kind of shows it, and at that point I believed it, and at that point I knew I definitely was negligent and I messed up. However, again, I was operating under the context that Shanny gave me, where he just described it as just quote furry stuff, and that SNick was just trying to paint it as something creepy to embarrass him, in a deliberate attempt by SNick to make it look worse than it really was, alluding to the blurred material in the video. I'm not going to try to play perfect here. If I had the context that he is being alleged as a pedophile, like pedophile, kids, or furry, the Cub stuff, like you mentioned, and I knew what the context was for Cub, I would have absolutely not hesitated, said, dude, I can't be with you. Go figure out your own shit. Goodbye. Cut him off. I would have absolutely done that. I am telling you, at that moment when this happened, I already didn't trust SNick. there was stuff happening with SNick every day. I didn't want to hear about it. I cut myself. I toned it out because I had my own stuff going on. I know the stuff with Shanny didn't look great. I absolutely remember that being the case. And I remember it being like creepy stuff. Now, you got to understand, I did also get my context from Shanny, and I also told my perspective to SNick in person. If what you're telling me now came out of SNick, or if SNick was able to tell me like in full detail what it was, which I don't think he did at Too Many Games, I would have absolutely acted at that point, but he didn't. He never did. I would have acted. That
also sounds bizarre to me. That he made this whole video on Shanny. He like died on this hill. He includes you in the video. That's the only reason I even first had indication that you were involved.
Oh,
SNick includes you in the video, and I was like, okay.
And I talked to the same kid 2 months later. I want to reiterate again that Shanny told me that everything on the account was legal, and at the time, up until this call with Jaden, I was under the false impression that any drawing depicting minors in NSFW content was illegal. So like things like Lolly, for example. Lolly is drawing depiction of minors in NSFW content. I thought that was illegal. When Shanny again told me that he was going to go about this through the law, talking to a law firm and wanted to handle things through the law, I was just under the impression again that, well, obviously there's no illegal material on there if he's doing that.
I shouldn't use the word pedophile because I don't know the term for babies.
I will say this too. And if it is pedophile, like you guys are saying though,
is there a term for, do I even have to, I feel so gross Googling it. What's the term for babies? I feel gross Googling
I just know pedophile. But this is what I was going to say. If you guys are doing an investigation, have you guys ever thought about reporting that? Like if it is how you described it, have you guys thought about reporting to law enforcement?
Come on.
No, I'm not joking.
Yes and no. For example, I will say. So I'll explain yes and no. Okay. So obviously, Shanny didn't do anything illegal because it's drawings of babies. Same way Shadman, the only reason he got arrested is because he assaulted someone with a gun.
That's not illegal?
Nope. Drawings of anything are fine, unfortunately.
Lolicon is not illegal.
Nope.
I did not know that.
As long as it's not pictures or videos.
I thought it was illegal.
Nope.
Okay. Well, that's news to me. But again, once Jaden explained to me that drawings are perfectly legal, that's when I realized, like, obviously I didn't know the full context. My negligence on the entire material, whether it be not safe for work material, but especially not safe for work furry material, just got the best of me. I don't know this stuff. I wouldn't know this stuff. I didn't want to know this stuff. And again, that is also part of the reason why originally I just bowed out of the conversation when Shanny was talking about not safe for work furry content. It's not something I want to know about. It's not something I care to know about. So I just left it at that. I do want to clarify something that's been misconstrued or misunderstood from my initial call with Jaden. I never tried to deny that me and Shanny were friends. What I tried to explain to Jaden was that me and him were never close friends. For context, I only started making online friends in 2017 and 2018. In fact, the first interaction I had online where I met like Evan from Tail Channel was on camera when I first talked to him. So most of my actual friends before that point are people I met in person via school and work. Especially after the fact, now that I've had a lot of online friends, Shanny wasn't one that I ever considered close. Only a very handful of people do I actually meet in person from the online sphere. So that's why when Jaden portrayed me as defending a close friend, I kept trying to explain that Shanny and I weren't as close as he suggested. Yeah, I didn't look into it. Now, knowing the context, I absolutely regret that because it does look bad. And I do want to handle this right. I have nothing to lose by cutting off Shanny thing. I do want to say that too. He is not a personal friend of mine and I don't hang out with him outside the streams. Now, I'm not gonna say that entirely, like it never happened. Like, of course, like I'm sure we've talked here and there and had DMs here and there outside the streams. But it's not consistent and it's not at all, he's been on streams more. I talked to him on streams more than outside of streams. In the call, we did go into the fact that even if Shanny didn't explain the post to me, I still didn't see anyone online informing me about it either. It's important to note that after this call, I sent Jaden an advanced Twitter search link for all my tweets in the month of April when the allegations dropped, because that would have been the highest point when the allegations were shared when it was posted. I looked through all my tweets, and whether it was quote tweets or replies, I was trying to show Jaden that no one in that period ever mentioned anything to me about it. And again, in that stream, 15 hours after the allegations dropped on that same day, no one in that VOD either talked about the allegations. But in Jaden's document, he says, quote, "While the only evidence Sam has provided me was the link to an advanced Twitter search showing Sam didn't tweet a lot for a period of time, still tweeted a lot, just not a ton. But is him not tweeting proof he didn't know about Shanny's cub porn? Not one fucking bit." And he's right. Me tweeting a lot is not proof of that. That wasn't why I sent him that link. I clearly stated it in our DMs, which are available to you for you all to see. I sent him a link to show, quote, "At no point did anyone in my replies make me aware of any sort of post. When Jaden initially asked me for tangible proof that I didn't know about the allegations, that was the first piece of evidence I provided that very night, right after our call." Obviously, considering the circumstance, obviously that wasn't the right choice for me. Yes, I agree with that. And I think we established that. But I do feel like it is still a factor to remember as to why I didn't immediately just go straight to Shanny, tell him, fuck you, I watched the SNick video, blah, 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 and cut him off, because I didn't watch the SNick video. I had no reason to trust SNick. That's why I talked to him at too many games, because I knew there's a lot of problems. I know he was making like tweets about like me and my friend group.
Did you see any of the discourse around Shanny, or like when he deleted his Twitter and stuff and rebranded? Like, did you see any of that stuff?
I did not. No. Could you tell me about it?
Okay.
Like what's...
I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. People on Twitter were calling him the same things I'm calling him, probably ruder and more mean. Calling him pedophile, baby fur guy. I think you were tagged into a lot of them, but I mean, to be fair, his Twitter's gone, so I can't find any of them.
Fair though, too, we are Sonic tubers and we get tagged in a lot of things, and I have my notifications off, and especially last year.
We do get tagged in a lot, but I do want to mention we're both able to see it. But
also last year, or not starting last year, but I've had my notifications on Twitter off. Especially last year, I was not paying attention.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's one thing, that part I relate to. Every Sonic tuber has to have their notifications off. I get that part.
Right. Throughout the call, I immediately acknowledged that I made a serious mistake by not looking into these matters sooner. I even mentioned wanting to speak to SNick about it, as I feel like he would understand my hesitation at looking at his post due to the conspiracies from his group at that time and what was going on. And after talking to SNick, I now realize that not everything I alluded to came from him directly, but many of these posts did originate from the same group. So even though I mentioned, like, this is something SNick did to me, or this is something SNick did to me, it wasn't always specifically SNick, but it did come from the same group. It is also worth mentioning, as I did in the call, that there were also a lot of problematic characters surrounding SNick and his group at that time, many of whom are pretty infamous in the Sonic community for not so great things. And after speaking with SNick, I know how much of that didn't come directly from him, but I had heard a lot of inappropriate things relating to jokes and fan events. This contributed as to why I didn't take SNick's post as fact. I explained this to Jaden, and he somewhat agreed with me, but ultimately none of that changed the fact that at the end of the day, what SNick posted about Shanny turned out to be true. But I do feel like that is important context to consider, in the fact that, again, in 2023 in April, if somebody told me SNick made a post, why I immediately disregarded it. And there may have been a doc before that, before any of these actual allegations.
And again, I don't care about any of that shit at all, whether they had problems, whether they love each other, whether they're divorced. But
I do want to give context, because, again, at that point, I do want to give context that him and Shanny were having problems for like years, I think like 2 years already, or something like that between him and whenever that happened, I've, again, tuned it out, because I barely knew, but I also wasn't fond of either. And especially now, considering the stuff that's come out about and that whole friend group in the server, and, you know, the horrible shit they say, I
I actually don't know.
Well, there was pretty racist stuff said. Like,
oh, you're talking about. Yeah, I do know what you're talking about.
But also,
yeah, I do know what you're talking
also that group as a whole. When I mentioned some of the messed up things I heard from that group, Jaden brushed it off as edgy jokes and that it didn't matter. I don't fully agree with that. If a group is known for saying some pretty crazy, outrageous things, I don't think it's unreasonable for me to question their character. He alluded to like shooting up Revolution one year. I do recall that.
Again, I don't care about any of that stuff. I literally just tweeted yesterday, I'm going to kill Daniel RPK. Like, I literally tweeted, I'm going to kill him. Like, I really don't care about that stuff.
I knew of that stuff before that, and that is why when Shanny says SNick did this, I'm like, I'm not looking into it. I don't.
That's not. That's the same with Talk with Daniel. It's like, that's not bad. Like, if someone said, oh, he made an edgy joke, it's like, oh man, that's whatever.
And I will say again, after talking to SNick, I know that I now understand that a lot of what I heard didn't come directly from him, but as an outsider, it did kind of feel like guilty by association because again, there was a lot of infamous characters in his group that are just not great people. Now, up to this point in the call, I hadn't fully explained the context of my in-person talks with SNick to Jaden, other than the fact that SNick didn't seem bothered by anything I said at Too Many Games or made me aware of anything crazy at Too Many Games. But since we were discussing an event from over a year ago, it did take me a moment to recall what the main point of my conversation was with SNick, and the fact that it was about my official work and how it had no connections to Shanny, because again, at the time, my only concern was shutting down the conspiracies being spread by that group, as I wasn't aware of any other allegations at that point. And we talked about generalization first, like my connections with Sega and my friend group, because I think at that point, before the Shanny stuff, originally he was alluding to getting leak. That's what it is, and this just reminded me. It wasn't about any of the Cub stuff you just mentioned. It was about leaks. You know, I take NDAs very seriously, and I never, gave information to Shanny or anyone like that. And that's what SNick was alleging at that point. Again, this is something SNick himself confirmed in his testimony. While we did briefly mention the furry content involving Shanny, he already assumed that I was aware of those allegations. And so the majority of our conversation at Too Many Games centered around the conspiracies from his group, as well as where I stood on the matter regarding my work, as well as why I wasn't talking to Shanny at that moment. As we head near the end of this call, I want to mention that I was still concerned about how Jaden would portray things in his video. By that point, it was clear he didn't fully understand or have all the context. And while I recognized that I was still wrong for not knowing about Shanny's actions sooner, I also knew it was crucial that you, the audience, had the full context to understand what happened. But I did know with Jaden's talking point in the call, talking about how many streams Shanny has been on, I knew it would be a talking point in his video and allude to me having had known about it.
If you want my encouragement or my actual thoughts, I know encouragement sounds fake. That's why I changed it. That's kind of bad phrasing. But my encouraging actual thoughts are that I do think everything will be fine. Especially you kicking out Shanny. I do think some, let's be honest, retards are going to be mad at you, but it's not a big deal. Just be like, hey, I kicked him out and I did it now. I don't think you'll get too much flack for this.
I think I'm not really concerned about that. I think it's more so the concern, and I'm sorry if I'm reiterating. And
no, you're good. I don't want I can tell.
I think it's just more so I just want to make sure that it's clarified, because I mean, you have that number written down, how many streams he's been on, and I feel like that's definitely going to be a factor in the stream. And if that's the case, I don't want it to assume, oh, this came out, he has been on this many streams, Sam knew all this time. I just don't want.
It seemed, if I'm going to give you my honest thoughts after this, I believe you to an extent, but it does partially, especially with all the evidence, does seem like I understand what you're saying. Anxiety disorder, didn't watch the video, didn't hear the doc, didn't see any tweets. But it does seam like there was at least some inkling of knowledge.
There was some, I've mentioned.
That's just for you to say.
There was some inkling of knowledge.
And there was some inkling of knowledge, but it's not. But what to what degree is where I'm a little in the gray. Despite what you're saying, I am a little in the gray with the evidence.
My subscriber count or anything like that wasn't my concern. What I wanted was to make sure that things wouldn't be portrayed the way Jaden initially assumed near the beginning of the call. I knew the number of streams Shanny had been on would likely be a talking point in his video because he mentioned it in our call, but I was worried it could be twisted to imply that I'd known about the full extent of the allegations all along, which I didn't. And now that the video is out, and for those that saw it, you would know that's exactly how things ended up kind of being portrayed. Again, I don't fault Jaden for initially reaching those conclusions, but after we had talked and I had explained my perspective along with the limited information I had, it became clear that he didn't have all the details before publishing the video, and as a result, it was portrayed inaccurately. That's why I'm here now. I want to be as transparent as possible with you all. You know, I do agree with you. Like, yeah, if everything you're saying here, yeah, the community does deserve to know. This guy shouldn't be on a platform. I was definitely negligent by not doing my homework when this stuff came out originally and looking into it and took it seriously rather than brushing it off as drama. I should have.
Yeah, and if you want to talk about Shanny and if you want to talk to him, and I'm totally like, I don't care about the transparency. But if you do want to talk to him and say like, hey, they're doing an investigation, that's totally as acceptable as well. I have no issue with that. I don't want you to like feel blindsided. I gotta be honest with you, I'm not going to do that, because I don't really want to. I mean, he doesn't deserve that. I mean, that's the reality. He doesn't. I don't. That's fair. I mean, I gave Native a warning because we were friends once.
I mean this though. Like, I know like he's been on a lot of my streams, like a fuck ton for years, but I've never looked at him as a close friend, and I don't know. I don't owe anything to him, and clearly this is a bed he made. He's gonna have to sleep in it. He's gonna have to leave the internet. Like that's the only thing you do. Leave the internet. Go to therapy. Go get help. Go do some shit. Again, that I guess I'm like kind of like worried about this. It's like, oh man, like if people don't read all the context, then it could, you know, because I know the internet is pretty fragile. They don't look at all the context of things sometimes. But you know, I'll just do my best.
I would try to, if I were you, I would try to find some way to prove you didn't know about this.
I mean, honestly,
and try to find a tangible way, whether it's a DM with someone, just anything to prove like you didn't know about this, because it does seem from all the evidence, and I'm not saying you did know because it seems like you didn't know to a degree, but it will appear like you did.
And I still stand by everything I said. Shanny is not someone who deserved to have a platform, and I deeply regret not doing my due diligence sooner. I also agree with Jaden that based on initial perceptions, it definitely looks like I knew about the allegations due to mentioning I cut ties earlier on. This is an uphill battle, but I hope that through the evidence and testimony and added context, you can see that my actions were the result of ignorance and negligence, but not intent. So, you might wonder why the Sonic Show's video claimed I knew about the allegations against Shanny. I had every intention of talking with Jaden further, as I could still see that he had misconceptions about my involvement after our initial call and group chats. I want to make it clear that this isn't an attack on Jaden. I believe he had good intentions with the video, aiming to spread awareness to keep our community safe, and I respect that, which is why I did my best to answer his questions. However, after our initial call, it became difficult to continue the conversation. At times, Jaden's approach felt antagonistic, and it made things hard to have a productive dialogue. He even admitted in our messages that he came off as a little bit pretentious. As someone who is only human, this made it hard to communicate, especially when the conversation started to feel accusatory. I do believe this situation could have been handled a little more professionally from the start. I understand Jaden had a certain perception of me, and maybe he didn't want to give me the benefit of the doubt, but it seemed that whenever I tried to provide context or firsthand testimony, it often was seen in a negative light. When Jaden first approached me about this investigation, I was under the impression that we were going to work together to clarify things regarding my channel and my relationship with Shanny to ensure that his video was fully accurate. However, during our first call, he did mention to me that his video was already nearly finished, which did shift the dynamic.
The rest is like unsure. I'm basically done. My video is entirely done. So
okay.
It's really just on the dock.
All right.
So that's when it goes live. Whenever that's finished is when it goes live.
Alrighty. In the end, it felt like a steep hill to climb, and my words were being used against me, and I acknowledge that I was wrong. Even without knowing the full story, Shanny shouldn't have been a person that was platformed, and I was careless. As a creator, it is my responsibility to know who I associate with, and for that, again, I am sorry for that oversight. After my initial call with Jaden on August 24th, he got my initial testimony, but I knew he was still missing key context. So the day after banning Shanny, I focused on informing my mutuals about Shanny being banned and explaining to them what I learned, and being responsive to Jaden. I had a first-hand witness explain to Jaden at that point that my conversation with SNick at Too Many Games didn't involve the allegations against Shanny in detail. On August 27th, after speaking with SNick, Jaden believed I was, quote, freaking out and running to all of his friends to help bat for him. This wasn't the case. I wanted to be cooperative and have first-hand witnesses clarify the situation. I understood Jaden had more questions, but I was taking things step by step. However, Jaden's tone became more accusatory, which made it difficult to communicate. He even said, quote, so to Sam, who started and stopped typing, which made the conversation feel more confrontational than I feel like it should have been. I won't cover everything in the group chat for the sake of brevity, but I will be transparent and release the full exchange with censored names so that way you guys can read it for yourselves. But to touch briefly on it, I tried to explain why I hadn't seen SNick's post given the false conspiracies spread by his group at that time, and Jaden dismissed this saying, quote, I don't think this matters, this doesn't even get mentioned in the video or the doc. However, this topic about me not trusting SNick is indeed covered in both. Jaden also asked why I mentioned I cut ties regarding Shanny to two people, Matthasnocuts and SNick. I explained that my conversation with Matt was solely focused on Shanny being a leaker, and SNick confirmed that we didn't discuss the Cub allegations at Too Many Games in detail. And again, that conversation was in reference to Shanny being a leaker and my official work. The final point Jaden mentioned was the voice call I had with the anonymous individual where I said, quote, he changed. I reached out to this individual at that moment to ensure that I wasn't misrepresenting, the conversation or speaking on behalf of what they remember. He confirmed to me that we did discuss Shanny's furry account and the first allegations, but like SNick, he thought I was already aware of the full story and we never went into detail or explicitly talked about what Shanny was being alleged of doing. He also confirmed that if I did say, quote, he changed, it was in reference to Shanny distancing himself from leaks. When I mentioned this to Jaden, he insulted the anonymous source, saying, quote, anonymous hates my guts and wants no involvement, as well as him being very soft and not pushing. Unfortunately, at that point, I realized continuing the conversation with Jaden wouldn't help uncover the full truth. During our first call, again, he did mention that his video was nearly finished, and it seemed like anything I said afterwards wouldn't change his portrayal of me. Still, I didn't give up. On August 29th, I asked SNick directly to clarify everything alleged against Shanny and apologize for any misunderstanding I may have had. I wanted to hear the full context from him personally and ensure my mutuals were informed of the full story. I'm happy to say that SNick accepted, and we had a long, cordial 4-hour conversation about everything. He explained what happened in his own words, and I shared what I heard from Shanny over the years. As me and SNick compared stories, it became clear that I had not been told the full story, and the truth had been obscured from me. The first thing I asked SNick about was the allegation that Shanny had sent him not safe for work furry material when he was 17. Shanny had explained it was a mistake, claiming that he didn't know SNick's age and that SNick had lied about it to be in a server that he shouldn't have been in, as well as claiming that he thought SNick was an adult because he was dating an adult in the server, and because Shanny knew the adult, he just assumed SNick was an adult as well. While SNick did confirm that he was dating an adult in the server with his parents' permission, there was no age requirement in a server in question. Regardless, this doesn't excuse, Shanny's actions at all. He had the responsibility to know who he was sending that material to, and I apologize to SNick again for only just now hearing his side, and for again taking Shanny at his word, and I'm grateful to say that he holds no ill will in that regard. Regarding what he told Jaden about our in-person conversation at Too Many Games 2023, nothing changed. He had already informed Jaden that he didn't discuss the full extent of the allegations because he thought I was already aware. In fact, here's one of many testimonies from SNick on the matter. Furthermore, Sam and I are on the same page with our meetup at Too Many Games 2023. I had assumed that Sam had already known the full story and didn't want to delve into what was already known, focusing instead on the more personal unknowns between the two of us. However, that was not the case from what I know now. SNick, after hearing my side and hearing what Shanny had told me, he didn't agree with Jaden's video targeting me or anyone else associated with Shanny, as we both understood that Shanny wasn't just known on my streams. He had been a part of this community for a long time before I was even around, connected to hundreds of people through fan events, websites, and more. More importantly, not focusing on the actual perpetrators in Jaden's video detracts from the key message about community safety and shifts the video into unnecessary sensationalism, which would overshadow the core issue. I even told Jaden during our initial call that I had no issue with him mentioning my channel or mentioning that Shanny's presence on my streams. What I did take issue with, though, was the misconception about my role as Shanny's former friend. Here's another testimony from SNick on the matter. Part of why I wanted Shanny to be a prominent focus over Sam was due to his obscurity. I didn't want Shanny to weasel his way out of this once more, as he has in the past. He surrounded himself with many people outside of Sam, and they shouldn't be shamed for being manipulated by him. Later, SNick messaged Jaden saying, quote, I hope whatever you're doing still predominantly focuses on Shanny. It would be a travesty if his actual allegations were undermined by Sam's ignorance through Shanny's obfuscation of information. The next day, on August 30th, I received a message from Jaden that continued, unfortunately, the same antagonistic tone from our previous group chat, including cat emoji innuendos, relating to me unfollowing him on social media after our negative discussion in the group chat. Jaden continued with the same tone he used when I brought in the first-hand witness for Too Many Games or when I talked to the anonymous individual to clarify our conversation. He viewed my discussion with SNick as a negative, saying, quote, I do not care for a response to this. If you want to respond, answer the questions in the group chat first, rather than running to SNick and everyone to try to cover your bases, framing all of this in a very manipulative way. Otherwise, I do not care for more palter from you. Again, the full DM conversation I had with Jaden will be available to you all with censored names. Later that night at 4:24 a.m., I decided to respond to Jaden since he was still online. Despite me not wanting to engage with his antagonistic demeanor, I knew his intentions for the video were still good. My issue with Jaden wasn't that he was making a video addressing predators. It was his assumption that I was somehow complicit in Shanny's actions. I said to Jaden, I am going to be 100% honest with you. Every fiber of my being is against talking with you right now. I know you may not realize it, but I don't like the antagonistic demeanor of your messages as of late. You can say, quote, which is why I'm continuing to message you civilly like this, quote, but from everything you've been saying, like putting cat emojis as innuendos and other petty things that I could go into, but in the favor of setting the record straight, I will ignore that. But here's the bottom line, Jaden. I am willing to talk to you as long as things remain civil and cordial. Hell, I'm even willing to talk right now. And we can discuss everything, not just Shanny, but my discussions with SNick as well as our relationship with each other in the community. I don't ever want to have a problem, and the last thing I ever want is a burnt bridge, like you mentioned. I'm the type of person to call and figure things out with people who don't see eye to eye. Hence the reason I called you within 4 minutes of you originally asking. Just for clarification, I called him within 7 minutes, but I know it's late, but if you are still up for it, I can call. But the only thing I ask is that you be respectful and cordial, and I will do the same to you. Now, for brevity, I will summarize the rest of these messages, but again, the full conversation will be available to you all so you guys could read them for yourselves. Jaden responded saying that he was essentially too tired, but acknowledged that he writes a little goofy and even admitted to being a little pretentious. He said he was upset about how the group chat ended and feels like I was ignoring his questions, but understood the difficult position I was in as Shanny's former friend. He asked me to take accountability, which, by the way, I fully intended to do. I suggested a call to clear things up like I did with SNick, but Jaden declined, preferring written responses to his questions, saying that he was concerned that a call might lead to dishonesty. Though I didn't really understand that reasoning, I agreed to answer his questions in writing and clarified my intent was to be as transparent as possible. I thanked him for his time, and I went to sleep since at that time it was about 5:30 in the morning. When I woke up at 11 a.m., I was surprised to see that just 5 hours later, Jaden had declined my offer to provide further context via text and explained that the video was already being published, saying, quote, "Hopefully you can see the reality of the situation." And just like that, with the click of a button, a video that was lacking key context, going against the victim's wishes to stay focused on Shanny, and intended to protect children from not safe for work material, ended up including sexual content of underage characters, exposing them to the very audience we are trying to protect. Again, I believe Jaden had good intentions. I know he wants me to take accountability, and I've done that throughout this video here, which I plan to do from the start as well. I admitted in our initial call that I was negligent in not investigating Shanny further. I have no problem taking accountability in that regard. I know I was negligent. I can understand how Jaden came to some of his conclusions before speaking with me. It does look bad on the surface that Shanny was outed for such disgusting things after I said I cut ties, only for him to reappear later on. But I won't compromise on the truth of my character. I don't support what Shanny did, and that's why I banned and unfriended him immediately after learning the full context from Jaden. Now that I covered all the major points and gave you guys all the context as well as evidence and testimonies, let's go over some of the specific clips from Jaden's video to recap everything with your new understanding that you now have. The first major clip we'll cover is a section involving my DMs with Matthasnocuts.
Now Matt, who was formerly friends with Shanny, reached out to Sam to confront him about platforming him.
The wording here is crucial, as it sets the stage to you, the audience, to understand the context. Jaden begins by stating that Matt, quote, reached out to Sam to confront him about platforming Shanny. As you can see from my full DM conversation with Matthasnocuts, which is available to you, I initiated the discussion with Matt by asking, quote, what is this? This was not a confrontation at all.
To which Sam said he was fully aware of what Shanny had done with his massive amount of baby.
Again, wording is incredibly important. It is what gives you guys, the audience, the context you need to understand the truth and to what's going on. At no point in my entire hour-long text conversation with Matthasnocuts did anyone explicitly say, quote, a massive amount of baby, As I've reiterated, my focus during this conversation was solely on defending myself from the leak accusations, and I completely overlooked the points raised in the tweet. With the tweet containing blatant inaccuracies in the first sentence, and Matt himself stating that the post was driven by a vendetta over SNick leaks, I didn't focus on the rest of it and would attribute this to a post from SNick's group. Matt mentioned the Ink Money account only once, without detail, a website I did not know by name or memory. Regardless, the information was right in front of me, and I missed it because I immediately dismissed anything connecting to what I thought was SNick's group. Regardless of what I was thinking at the time, though, I should have taken the time to investigate more thoroughly and not dismiss the entire tweet as baseless, false drama. This oversight is entirely my responsibility, and it's a mistake that I deeply regret.
and he claimed he would be cutting all ties. But as you can hopefully tell by the amount of streams where Shanny's now a cast member apparently, something Sam actually references in the confrontation with Matt, saying, "We haven't spoke outside of him joining my streams." And think about that. Have you ever just randomly joined a live stream without communicating or even being friends with someone? Well, what about joining over 40 of them the year after they got exposed? Also, you just admitted that you're aware of what he's done, but are still letting him on stream. So you're knowingly, like, giving him prey. What the f?
This claim is not only completely unsubstantiated, but it also reflects, unfortunately, some of the carelessness in Jaden's statements. Maybe not intentionally, but it is there. Shanny's role on my streams was minimal. He was just a background voice while I played a video game. Since April 18, 2023, he has not been a part of my community Discord server, and while he has appeared occasionally on streams, that was the extent of his involvement. And anyone in my audience can confirm this. And if anyone in my audience experienced differently, I encourage them to come forward, and that way I can learn about it and understand if there's something I need to be made aware of. I will say though, given the timeline that SNick released his allegations 2 days before he left my server, it is possible that Shanny left my server knowing that SNick has publicly called him out, possibly to avoid anyone in my community from mentioning the allegations. That's just my speculation though. The next clip in question is about my in-person meeting with SNick at Too Many Games 2023.
To give the benefit of the doubt to Sam, let's say he really didn't know what it was and he thought it was Cub, right? And because of his hatred of SNick, which he claims, he did not watch or even pay attention to this video. Well, in that case, what are you thanking him for in person?
As I had already mentioned, and as SNick himself has confirmed, the majority of our conversation at Too Many Games was focused on my contract work, and now it had no connections to Shanny. I had brought this up because the conspiracies that SNick's group had regarding my work and the associations at that time. With this context, and as I have discussed this with SNick, I was thanking SNick's group for revealing the video of Shanny leaking Sonic Colors Ultimate, which once again reinforced why I was distancing myself from Shanny at that time.
A meeting that I personally wouldn't normally believe, but you confirm happened.
Now, thankfully, I did talk to SNick in 2023 of Too Many Games.
And even brought a friend, who I'm not going to drag into this, into a group chat to confirm you did meet up with SNick.
This is not accurate. This entire group chat, again, is available to you all to view for yourself. But this individual was not just brought in because he was a friend, he was brought in because he was a first-hand witness to my conversation with SNick at Too Many Games. And he said, in response to Jaden, "Sam and I crossed paths with SNick, who I know as a part of this story. Even now, but especially at the time of this convention, I was completely out of the loop of any drama relating to him. But I guess he had some beef with Shanny and Sam relating to some, quote, big Sonic conspiracy. This issue was brought up, and the misunderstanding was pretty much settled between SNick and Sam right then and there. I was sitting in on the entire conversation, as well as my girlfriend, and a few others of our friends. But not once did he mention anything about the primary allegations you guys are specifically looking into about Shanny. Because if he did, I would have been made aware of it for the first time right then and there, and it would have been a kind of a bombshell revelation to me. Again, I only just learned about all of this last night, and I assumed Shanny was chill this entire time. This individual was not brought into the group chat to simply, quote, confirm I talked with SNick. He was brought in to confirm what my conversation with SNick was about. Both his testimony and the testimony from SNick himself make it clear that we did not discuss the primary allegations regarding Shanny in detail or in a way that would have been immediately apparent to anyone like me or this other individual that did not know about the primary allegations. I told him the same thing I'm telling him you. He talked to me about Shanny and I told him, hey man, I'm not playing cop. I make videos, that's it.
Which, yeah, I make videos too. And like how I cut off Nativefall the second I found out anything, that is your responsibility as the video creator. You can't just say, I make videos, it's not my problem who I platform as, it's directly your problem.
I do not disagree with this statement one bit. I acknowledge that I was wrong. As a creator, it is my responsibility to be mindful of who I interact with and who I platform, and I failed in that regard. Shanny was on my streams and he shouldn't have been there. I made the mistake, and taking him at his word and dismissing SNick's post as mere drama, that was my failure. and I've learned from it. I am committed to doing better and moving forward.
And regardless of any of that, Nick claims Sam spoke and acted like he was quite familiar with what the term cub meant.
Again, wording is incredibly crucial to provide you, the audience, the proper context you need. SNick did not say I, quote, acted like I knew what the term, quote, cub meant. He said, quote, under the impression I was already aware of what was going on and what certain terms meant. The word acted implies deceit, which was never the case, and this doesn't align with the two testimonies, including the one from SNick himself. But now this leads me to the audio clip that Jaden put in his video, where I mentioned when I hear the word cub, I imagine like a bear cub, and that I don't even know what that entails.
And me, myself, Jaden, who got on a call with Sam, can confirm that even when he was like, I don't know what cub is, when pressed, immediately said it was like a kid bear. Something that's factually true. I mean, a kid bear is a cub, yes. Keyword, kid.
That is not what I said. I said when I hear the word cub, I imagine like a bear cub. All I remember was cub. And when I hear the word cub, I imagine like a bear cub, and I don't even know what that even entails. Like I don't like. I just know
a bear cub is a kid.
Like,
it's still
I didn't.
It's the same.
Dude, I'll now play that entire section in full because I feel like the way it was edited and framed made it seem like this was a mistake on my part.
And that's like, well, this guy's into cubs or baby fur. That's how it was originally said. Cub is like a new term to me. I was told he's a baby fur guy, and if I heard he was a baby fur person, I'd be like, that's worse than worse than saying Hitler was cool.
All I remember was cub. And when I hear the word cub, I imagine like a bear cub, and I don't even know what that even entails. Like I don't like. I just know that's like
a bear cub is a kid. It's still the same.
You know what I mean? Like I didn't know that. After Jaden explained that a bear cub was a kid, I said after I didn't know that. As you can tell from Jaden's clip, he tried to frame this as a Freudian slip of sorts, suggesting that this was something that I didn't mean to say when I said it. And, quote, I don't even know what that entails, he implied that I was backpedaling at that moment. The issue with this interpretation is that I intentionally said the same statement again 10 minutes later in our call. That's why I said the word, because I remember cub, and again, when I think of cub, and I'm just telling you my brain process, when I think of cub, I just think of like a bear cub. That's the first thing that comes to mind. And I remember that conversation with SNick at Too Many Games. And I remember when he told me that, I was confused then. And even before this call, I was still confused until he told me it is literally what you described it as. That's why I explained that I was simply describing how my brain processes the word cub when I hear the term bear cub. This is the only association that comes to mind immediately based off its common usage. I am not well versed in the specific terminologies for describing young animals. Before this, I just assumed a baby bear was just that, a baby bear. Growing up, I've always heard the term bear cub associated specifically with that specific animal, a bear. I just thought it was one of many random furry terms that I would not understand or want to understand. But I also think it's important again to keep in mind that, as I described when SNick made the video and Shanny was telling me about it, he did mention the term cub, but once again, he alluded to that term at that time not being truthful to what was on the account. So either way, even if I didn't know what cub was, whenever it was brought up, I just attributed it to false facts. The next section I want to acknowledge is how Jaden framed Shanny coming back to my streams near the end of last year.
As time passed and Sam started getting more comfortable calling Shanny by name on stream,
I have to be 100% honest with you all. I don't quite understand why Jaden is describing this in this way. I never acted like saying Shanny's name was taboo. In fact, the first stream when Shanny came back was on November 18th, 2023, during my Sonic Unleashed stream, and I simply called him by his name, Shanny. Even when he wasn't around just before that point, we still mentioned his name, like on June 10th, 2023, when one of my friends was mistaken for him.
I've been here for like 10 minutes.
What?
Just creeping in the background.
What did you hear?
Oh, wow, Shanny has appeared. Yes, it's me, Shanny.
Oh my god. Jaden even uses an example where people in the chat asked about Shanny, and in each case, we simply said his name.
People think I'm Shanny.
No, this is Sergeant Gerbil.
I'm not Shanny.
You dingy. Shanny isn't Australian. Why do people...
You little freaks. I'm not Shanny.
And again, we used his name without hesitation. Again, I do believe Jaden had good intentions with this video, and I did my best to try to figure this out, and I believe I have the answer. Jaden may have thought otherwise because on a stream on September 29th, 2023, one of my friends joined the call with a distorted mic, and I mistakenly referred to him as Shanny because of how similar the voice was.
Oh, he's totally respawned.
What makes you say that, Shanny? Is it him staring at me in the distance from 2 miles away? Still looking for some smoke?
Who?
See if that made a difference, chat. Okay, I know his name. What?
You apparently don't know mine, motherfucker.
His health is...
Has my voice been messed up the whole time?
Yes.
Are you shitting me? Why didn't you guys say anything? Someone just DM'd me and we're like, you sound like you inhaled helium.
Because it sounds really funny.
Okay, what about now?
Oh my god.
There you go.
Hi, how are you doing?
Wow. No, that was not intentional. Okay, I have not
so
used
funny,
this
though.
microphone. I legit have not used this mic in like 2 fucking years.
Obviously, later on, we joked about it when we realized that friend realized his mic was messed up and it made him sound like Shanny. The point is, I'm trying to make is that there was no attempt to sneak Shanny back in the streams in any way. We simply said his name out loud because there was no attempt to hide it, and there was no reason I would think to hide it because I did not know of the allegations at the time.
I highlighted in green at the time at which this screenshot was taken his entire catalog of all his most recent streams, and I've color-coded which ones had Shanny on it, which, as you see, there's a lot of green here.
I know this isn't a major point, but I do think it's important just to give as much clarity as possible, is that Shanny was actually not on my Sonic Superstars co-op stream. To the best of my knowledge, the first stream he did return on was Sonic Unleashed on November 18th, where I openly called him by his name, Shanny. The idea that there was somehow any attempt to sneak Shanny back into the streams either way is simply not the case. It's crucial to clarify this because Jaden's misconceptions is giving you, the audience, a misleading perception that there was some intent to deceive you when there never was. The next major point I want to hit on was my conversation with Anonymous, where Jaden in the video clip says,
and another decently large creator who wants to remain anonymous later also confronted Sam on this.
This was not a confrontation. This individual was curious why Shanny was back in my streams, and I was happy to call and discuss it with them.
To which Sam said that Shanny has changed and gotten better. So apparently, I guess he's healed from being a creep who f***s off to baby art. And I shouldn't have to say it, you guys aren't that brain dead, but being a pedophile isn't something you just get better from. It's not like a cult.
Since we've already covered this and the anonymous individual has provided his testimony, I will just super briefly reiterate. During my conversation with Anonymous, we discussed Nick's post about Shanny's art account, but I understood it to just be, quote, furry stuff like Shanny described to me. They didn't explicitly go into detail of what Shanny had been outed for, assuming that I already knew, just like SNick said for Too Many Games. Most of our conversation focused on Shanny being a leaker and why he decided to distance himself from leak culture because I was not happy about it. This is actually important too because this anonymous individual would tell me that Shanny used to leak stuff to them directly and to others in the past, which is why we mainly discussed that aspect with this anonymous person. Here is the testimony again from this anonymous individual because I do think it is important. Initially, the wording that Shanny had, quote, changed was telephoned into being about growing from Cub content. In actuality, it was most definitely about the fact that Shanny was known for sharing Sonic leaks, not from Sam. With that, I've now addressed All 4 points from Jaden's perspective, backed by both evidence and testimony. With the new context you have, I hope it's clear that my attention stemmed, again, from ignorance and negligence, but not intent. Before concluding, there are a few other miscellaneous points I'd like to briefly cover, as well as explain the steps I plan to take in light of my negligence in this matter. One part of the video is when Jaden alludes to me being an in for Shanny. To prove this, he says this.
And personally, in my opinion, I think it's fair to allude to Sam being an in for Shanny, especially when, as I've already covered in this video, he's been on over 150 streams and videos. Like, what other conclusions could you possibly come to?
I said that Sonic reactions were fake, and they are, because his company, Strategy Guide, worked on one of the trailers for the game. They couldn't have just made these videos before and posted all willy-nilly, as Sega would have to approve to see if they were alright. And here, Evan even admitted to faking reactions.
Which I personally don't have even the slightest bit of care about faking reactions.
Context is everything, and I will happily provide it here. There's nothing hidden or negative about the situation. First, Evan and I don't fake reactions, but as Evan mentioned in that tweet, there was one time we kept our reactions to a minimum to avoid spoiling a surprise. I'm not sure why Jaden is using this clip as proof of me leaking anything. Yes, I had the unique and special opportunity to work on the Sonic Origins trailer for the 2022 Sonic Central, and afterwards I shared that knowledge with my audience. Before we move on to the next stream, there is something I do want to share with you guys. Stay here, there's something I want to share with you guys. Did you guys like this trailer for Sonic Origins? Because I hope you loved it. Because I made that. I'm happy to announce, and I'm proud to announce that me and the Strategy Guide team had the honor of making this trailer for you guys. So I hope you guys liked it. I really enjoyed making it. It was fun. And huge shout out to the team for allowing us that incredible opportunity.
But I do show this to say, knowing how Shanny got cut off by basically everyone, for him to still be getting Sonic scoops, I can only guess is from Sam, considering his ties with Sega, and with Evan saying he saw the trailer already.
Evan was part of our team that helped make that trailer, and nothing from that trailer or game ever leaked. I've always been very open on what I do and what I work on. Quick note, while I was editing this video, I realized Jaden is using a clip from an individual who was incredibly questionable. Even in the very video Jaden got this clip from, this individual is talking about how almost every Sonic tuber has blocked them from his harassment. In the video, this person also calls a well-known female Sonic content creator a very misogynistic slur. I just want to clarify why I'm blocking their name from Jaden's video, and I think it's important due to the topic of not platforming those who don't deserve to be platformed.
So with that, is it really a reach to think it's possible he's the one giving his friend a bit of inside info? I mean, honestly, I feel like most people would give their friends a bit of inside info. And I understand why Sam would get defensive about this, as it's probably embarrassing to tell it to someone and then just him unknowingly go tell it to everyone.
It's either a Colors port or a remake of Colors, but you can never repeat that because like 5 people know.
Jaden at this point plays a clip of Shanny leaking Sonic Colors Ultimate, while zooming in on my face to suggest that I somehow gave the information to Shanny. However, this narrative doesn't hold up. I didn't work on any official projects before Sonic Origins, and I had no involvement in Sonic Colors Ultimate. If I had, covering those Sonic Colors Ultimate leaks on my own channel would have probably been a violation of any NDA I would have had. Additionally, nothing I've ever worked on has ever leaked. If it had, I would not have a job or continued employment. This is exactly why I was upset with Shanny for being associated with leak culture in 2023, because it leads to the assumptions like the one Jaden makes in this very video. Now you know why I said to Matthasnocuts and to SNick that I, quote, cut Shanny off, because I did not want assumptions made like the ones Jaden is making now because I was associated with Shanny and worked on official media. But I am not worried about that, because once you examine the facts and the timeline, that narrative just falls apart. Everyone I've ever worked with, everyone that knows what I work on, knows that I've never leaked anything. I've never leaked one thing. So I explained to SNick that Shanny is not connected to Strategy Guide. He is not connected to any work. And
just so you know, Strategy Guide, none of your work, Sega's not even mentioned in this whole thing. Nothing like that is involved.
I do, because I mean that's my bread. I mean that's literally my job.
I know, that's why I'm saying it. I don't want you to leave this call being too stressed. I don't want you to die of a heart attack tonight, you know.
I can only assume Jaden mentioned this in our call because he knew focusing on this distracts from the more serious allegations at the core of the story. I mentioned Shanny's association with leak culture to Jaden to explain to him why when I told Matthasnocuts and SNick I had cut ties, and also to give clarity as to why, given SNick's group's assumptions about my work, I didn't initially take SNick at his word. That is the only time I ever mentioned the leak stuff to Jaden, was to give him context. With that in mind, it is important to note that in Jaden's document, he implies the opposite, stating, quote, which with Shanny being a source of leaks and connections, makes perfect sense to me as to why they would continue to keep him around and to bring him on streams. You tickle his back by bringing him on streams, and he tickles yours by giving you inside knowledge and leaks. Here, he implies that I kept Shanny around for leaks. The issue is, both of these can't be true at the same time, further showing that Jaden's narrative doesn't fully hold up, even if it wasn't intentional. Here is a statement from SNick himself regarding that aspect of Jaden's video. I feel like in regards towards the claims directed specifically at Nadafall and Shanny, Jaden's video gets a lot of points across well, and I commend him for getting the word out on those two especially. My main issue comes from the core speculative aspect of the video, which comes off as somewhat tabloidy, even if it wasn't his intent. Doubly so is the certain timeline discrepancies in regards to Shanny's supplier of leaks, being postured as Sam being responsible, which does not line up at all with Sam's professional history with Sega, Sonic Colors Ultimate being leaked months before Sam's official involvement editing for Sega, and Sam's personal thoughts towards me, a lot of his distrust being labeled as present tense when it should be past tense. Because again, I did talk to SNick before this video, and a lot of our assumptions were cleared up, and Jaden did know that our conversation went very well. Another miscellaneous topic I do want to bring up before we reach the conclusion here is the thumbnail for the video itself. The thumbnail of his video, which predominantly features my face intentionally morphed alongside the other two individuals facing serious accusations, is misleading. The implications this has caused has made me sick to my core. This is not just my opinion, it is based on comments from Jaden's video as well as social media suggesting that people are perceiving my involvement as more serious than it is. This has been a very common misconception since that video was released, but Jaden has not made any changes to the thumbnail as of the making of this video. I do not condone or tolerate predatory behavior in any form, and the perceived notion that I was complacent is not only false, but deeply damaging and incredibly hurtful. It's clear that this video and how it was conducted resulted in something that even Jaden himself must have not have predicted was going to happen. However, despite him saying on social media in response to Nadafall that Sam was not accused of being a pedo, it unfortunately resulted in some falsely believing this just from the view of the thumbnail. In regarding these implications, I just want to cover the end of Jaden's video where it heavily implies something I am not.
I think to make the ending more interesting here, no offense to my little helpers for the doc who all did an amazing job top to bottom, but I want to end the video with the phrase, birds of a feather flock together. And that's all. Bye.
Shanny, I'm still not allowed in the back of Hot Topic.
What did you do?
He utters the phrase, birds of a feather flock together, followed immediately with a clip of my stream talking to Shanny. Even if the implication was not intentional, it did happen. And as a result, the attention shifted away from the two accused predators the video and document should have focused on and faced continued scrutiny. I'd like to quickly clarify something I was made aware of, that Jaden mentioned me blocking him after the video was released. I just want to quickly clarify that I did that purely to focus on the statement you guys are watching now without distractions. On the same day the video released, Jaden randomly messaged me alluding that I somehow tampered with someone's stream covering the topic. I wasn't sure what he was referring to, and honestly, I still don't. But I felt engaging with him in any way just wasn't productive. So I made the decision to focus on what you're watching now. I wanted to get rid of all distractions, and I wanted to focus on this, to bring the truth and to release everything. And with that, I have officially covered all major points to the best of my ability with both evidence and testimony. I truly believe that Jaden had the best intentions with his video. At the end of the day, Jaden's main goal was to spread awareness and make our community safer for all ages. And I do believe at the end of the day, my channel is in a much safer place now, knowing Shanny is gone. I fully agree with the concepts he had going into this investigation. Unfortunately, his video created a lot of misconceptions about my role as Shanny's former friend. As I watch the video, again, I understand how Jaden came to some of these conclusions. However, there was some negligence on Jaden's part, such as agreeing to get another written statement from me after our group chats didn't work so well, to clarify what he didn't fully understand. Only to then release the video before I had the chance to address any misconceptions he may have had and to provide the tangible evidence he was asking for. When Jaden first reached out for an investigation, I called him within 7 minutes after 9 p.m., having no idea what this discussion would involve. Why? Because I had nothing to hide, nor any intent to platform someone undeserving. From the start, my goal was to clarify all of these points. If I were complicit, as the video suggests, my actions throughout this process doesn't fit that narrative. It was a mistake on Jaden's part not to take into account SNick's request to stay on the topic of Shanny, without unfairly implicating others. Shanny was not just someone who was my former friend, but was a known individual by hundreds of people in the Sonic community and has deep ties to those in the sphere well before my channel was even created. Based on their reactions regarding the making of this statement, many of these claims and allegations involving Shanny came to a shock to them as well. Once again, I don't want any of my words to be taken as an attack toward Jaden. That is not my intent or the overall point of the video. I was simply hoping Jaden would come to the same conclusion that others had, including the victim, SNick. Which is why I will read again the testimony from SNick. Part of the reason I wanted Shanny to be a prominent focus over Sam was due to his obscurity. I don't want Shanny to weasel his way out of this once more, as he has done in the past. He surrounded himself with many people outside of Sam, and they shouldn't be shamed for being manipulated by him. I was unaware, I was lied to, I was negligent by not looking further into these allegations. I gave my former friend the benefit of the doubt, and that was extremely irresponsible on my part. And for that, I apologize, and I am committed to making this right. To be clear, Shanny is no longer my friend and will not appear in any future videos or live streams. Moving forward, I will be more aware when handling these situations. If you took the time to watch this video in full, I really appreciate you for taking the time to hear my side of the story. And I apologize for failing to do my due diligence. And for anyone who ended up getting hurt as a result, it was irresponsible for me to do so. So the big question is now, what do I do? I can't undo the negligence that led to this, but What I can do is take action, something that I wouldn't have done if I hadn't made this serious mistake. I can learn from it. I can grow and ensure I take necessary steps to prevent this from ever happening again. But I also think I can do more. Just like you all, I am disgusted by those who support or take part in these concerning material. I am also ashamed that I platform Shanny due to my negligence. I want to do my part to actively fight against predators and to make our world and community safer from them. I have decided to take all the revenue I made on all of my streams on this channel from January to August of this year, 2024, and to donate to the same charity Jaden mentions at the beginning of his video. My goal is to turn the situation into a net positive and to show that in good faith, while I may have disagreements on Jaden's approach, I agree with his intentions and I am fully committed to doing my part. The total amount donated to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children from my streams are $13,552 US. This includes both super chats and memberships. And again, this is from all of my streams from January to August from this year, including the ones that didn't have Shanny. The donation was made on September 5th, 2024, and has been fully processed as of the making of this video. I gotta be honest, I don't feel comfortable jumping right back into my usual routine of playing games and having fun. This experience has been incredibly stressful, and it has taught me just how important our platforms are and the influence they can have. With that said, I will be taking some time to reflect, but I'll see you all soon. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your patience. Take care.